Hey everybody, this is Paul Jones with the Michigan Real Estate Investor Network, and I'm here with your weekly book review. And this week, I will be reviewing Harvey Mackay's Swim with the Sharks Without Being Eaten Alive. It's really a good book. Honestly, it's about 6 chapters, but it's really just a book giving advice. That's literally the entire book. It gives tips the entire book. That's really all it is. So it has about 70 lessons. And what I'm going to do is from each chapter, I'm going to give you guys my favorite lesson and just a bit about how I've implemented it into my life. And at the end of this, I'll tell you how you guys can potentially win this book when we do our weekly raffle at the end of the week. Thanks. So I'll start with chapter 2 because chapter 1 is pretty much an introduction. And chapter 2 is Harvey Mackay's short course on salesmanship. It's pretty much what it says. It's a course on how to be a better salesman and how to get your point across to your clients better. And my favorite lesson from that book is it's not how much it's worth, it's how much people think it's worth. I'm pretty sure you guys have heard that saying before, but if you don't, let me just give you an example of how I've used it in my business and how you too can use it in real estate potentially. So just to give a real estate example, say you have a house in the suburbs. It's worth $225,000. You list it for $225,000. This house has a pool. Just to give you a scenario, this house has a pool. To someone who may have two let's say 8-year-old kids who has friends, who invites them over, who just wants that pool, wants to sit in the pool and have that lavish time, it may be worth that $225,000. Right? But if you're just an elderly couple who doesn't really do anything and just has no use for it, if you have a pool, that house may not be worth $225,000 to you. You say, why can't I just buy the house? Why can't I have this house without the pool? And that just gives you an example as the value of something is really in the eye of the beholder, right? So moving on to chapter 3, that's Harvey Mackay's short course on negotiation. And again, just like the last one, it's pretty much what it says, giving you tips and tricks on negotiating different deals. And my favorite lesson from this book, it's a long one, is the single most powerful tool for winning in negotiation is the ability to walk away from the table without a deal. If you're in real estate, this often happens every day, but it may not be because you don't want the deal. It may be because the seller or whoever you're working with does not like your offer or does not want the deal. So just a pretty much an example of it is if you are dealing with a seller and you're telling them, you're breaking down how much you can pay. This is the amount you can pay and the only amount that you can pay, but they're just consistent saying, hey, I really think I can have other buyers. I really think I can bring in an agent and make more money off of this deal. You just have to not be afraid to say, okay, bye. It was great talking to you, but I just don't think we'll be able to make something happen. You never know if that person will ever give you a call back and say, Paul, buyer Ben, I really should have took you up on that offer. I couldn't get what I wanted, so I really think I can work with you, and you may even end up getting a better deal in result of being okay with walking away from that deal instead of paying that extra $10,000. You said, hey, I really think I can buckle down and find something better and be okay without that potential deal. So moving on to chapter 4, it's really just a short course on management, managing your employees, even managing customers to an extent. And my personal favorite lesson from that is little things don't mean a lot. They mean everything. And when we say that, say, for instance, you were training one of your employees, you wouldn't want them to excuse my French, but to half-ass anything. You would just hate that. You want them to be very intimate with your potential seller, with your customer, because they're going to remember that. They're not going to remember the guy who just kind of spoke to them and blew them off. But if you sit down with them and go through everything with them, take those little notes about them and bring them up later. If one of your sellers is a really big fan of the Baltimore Ravens, that's really something big that you can take note of. Because down the line, that rapport building, those little bitty things that you remember could really set you over the edge of someone you're competing with to get that potential deal. right? If that person really likes the Ravens and, they just kind of come to you and say, hey, Paul, I really don't know if I can make this work. But you say, I completely understand, now that we've just kind of got the numbers out of the way a bit. You see that game the other day? I've done it myself, and I've won deals just off those little bitty things, knowing that little bit of knowledge that someone else may have not even cared to even ask about. Just bringing those things up, and then again, they'll say, "Hey, this person offered me $5,000 more, but just off the conversations we've had, just off the trust that we've built, I think I'd rather sell my house to you. I think I'd rather work with you on this deal as my agent, my broker, whatever line of business you're in." Just off those little things that you've taken note of in the beginning, it'll pay off in the end. So moving on, chapter 5 is just a bit about quickies, just really quick tips. When I say quickies, don't take it the wrong way, but it's just little bitty tips. So it's about 20 quickies in that. And my favorite one is that it usually pays to look good, of course. But sometimes it pays a lot more to look bad. So, for example, say for instance you were going to a seller's house, someone who's looking to sell their home, and you pull up in your all new Mercedes Benz. You pull up in your great suit, in your blue, your blue suede, your blue silk suit, whatever type of suit you may have, and you just walk up, knock on the door, take off your sunglasses, and say, "Hey, I'm here to buy your house." They're gonna say, "Who is this? Who is this guy who is so full of himself? He doesn't even have the decency to show up in regular attire." Maybe you may not see it like that. Maybe you think to yourself, the better I look, the more representable I'll be. The better I look, the more likely they'll think I'm better for them because of my professionalism. But that's not always the truth. Sometimes it's not really a bad idea to just show up in jeans and a t-shirt. It's really not. I don't believe that I've lost many deals off wearing my favorite polo striped shirt and a pair of jeans to a appointment. I truly don't believe I've lost a deal because of that. So it doesn't hurt to show up casually, like you can relate to the person, because oftentimes if someone's selling to an investor, they're likely not in the best of predicaments. They're likely not riding around in their Benz, in a BMW and Audi. They drive regular cars like you and I do. They drive those Chevys, those maybe a Cadillac, something of those sorts. But they're just normal people like us, and they respect those people who show up like that. They love people they can relate to. And if they feel that you feel you're above someone, they immediately feel, I can't relate to this person at all. They don't know what I'm going through. They've never been broke a day in their life. Look, he's trying to make money off me. He's trying to pay for that BMW, that Benz, that blue suit that he's got on. You see what I mean? So that's just one of my favorite tips. And then chapter 6, just to move on, it's about helping your kids beat the odds. It's 𝗬𝗲𝗄𝐻's helping your kids beat the odds. And this is something that I've learned young and that I truly do plan on passing down to my kids. And that is finding something you like to do and make it pay. That's why I'm in the business that I'm even in right now, because I realized, just through the endeavors that I've been through as far as business, I've tried multiple different lanes of starting a business. But then I realized the one thing that I really liked was negotiating. I love going back and forth with people, even when it obviously doesn't have a good end, an end in sight, right? I love speaking with people. I love meeting new people. I love just really hanging around people who plan on getting better. And that was the one thing about real estate that I really caught an eye for. It just seemed like everyone in real estate who I met was just had an aim for something higher. Maybe it may not be the big house, it may not be the flashy cars, but it was just, I'm doing real estate because I want a better life than I had as a kid. I want a better life than I have now. So that's just my personal reason. I knew there was people who I would love to meet. I knew I was okay with sitting down with sellers. That's why some people are investors who just put in the money, but I'm the guy who has to go sit in the living room, who has to talk with the old ladies, the old guys, any age, but I have to go sit with them. I have to give them that price. I have to really learn what's going on so we can make the best situation out of whatever's happening, so we can get the deal done and make something happen. And I knew that making people happy through that process, while also making money, making my community better, because at the end of the day, these houses that we go into are likely going to be rehabbed, whether it be by me or someone else, or they're going to be rented out to, and hopefully to a great tenant. So again, this is Paul Jones, and today I was reviewing Swim with the Sharks Without Being Eaten Alive. It's one of my favorite books. Again, it's not really like a book. It's not a storytelling book. It's really just tips and tricks just to handle business from a billionaire, a guy who runs his own business and who has worked with other billionaires and millionaires. So it was a really great read in my opinion, and I took a lot from it. Again, I gave you my favorite lessons, and those are just a few things that I was able to implement into my life and into my business. So again, I was going to tell you guys how you can potentially win this book. So to win this book, what you guys will have to do is down below, just comment the current book you're reading, a book you're about to read, or a book that you have read recently. And then what we'll do is at the end of the week at lunchtime, we'll put all the names in a hat, we'll pull a name, and then that is the winner. And the only rule for this is that when you win and receive your book from the mail, you just have to post a picture and tag the Michigan Real Estate Investor Network. Again, this is Paul Jones reviewing Swim with the Sharks Without Being Eaten Alive. A great read. I'd highly recommend it. And again, I'll see you guys next time.